Hey crew, it's Pitt, and I am back with some more ancient lore. We are diving back into the Kybalion. We are looking at chapter 5 and 6 today, the mental universe and the divine paradox. We're going to be reading them aloud. I will be talking about the things that we need to be talking about, and I hold some unconventional beliefs. If you are unfamiliar with what that means, you should watch some of these other videos. If you are unfamiliar with what levels of responsibility means, you should go back to the Infinite Integrations playlist and watch it, because once you are aware of the knowledge, you become responsible for the knowledge, and I would hate for you to wander into that unprepared. With that being said, we are going to dive in and begin to read from
Chapter 5 The Mental Universe.
The universe is mental, held in the mind of the all, the Kybalion.
The all is spirit. But what is spirit? This question cannot be answered, for the reason that its definition is practically that of the all, which cannot be explained or defined. Spirit is simply a name that men give to the highest conception of infinite, living mind. It means the real essence. It means living mind, as much superior to our life and mind as we know them, as the latter are superior to mechanical energy and matter. Spirit transcends our understanding, and we use the term merely that we may think or speak of the all. For the purposes of thought and understanding, we are justified in thinking of spirit as infinite, living mind, at the same time acknowledging that we cannot fully understand it. We must either do this or stop thinking of the matter at all. Let us now proceed to a consideration of the nature of the universe as a whole and in its parts. What is the universe? We have seen that there can be nothing outside of the all. Then, is the universe the all? No, this cannot be, because the universe seems to be made up of many, and is constantly changing, and in other ways it does not measure up to the ideas that we are compelled to accept regarding the all, as stated in our last lesson. Then if the universe be not the all, then it must be nothing. Such is the inevitable conclusion of the mind at first thought, but this will not satisfy the question, for if we are sensible of the existence of the universe, then if the universe is neither the all or nothing, what can it be? Let us examine this question. If the universe exists at all, or seems to exist, it must proceed in some way from the all. It must be a creation of the all. But as something can never come from nothing, from what could the all have created it? Some philosophers have answered this question by saying that the all created the universe from itself, that is, from the being and substance of the all. But this will not do, for the all cannot be subtracted from nor divided, as we have seen. And then again, if this be so, would not each particle of the universe be aware of its being the all? The all could not lose its knowledge of itself, nor actually become an atom, or blind force, or lowly living thing. Some men, indeed, realizing that the all is indeed all, and also recognizing that they, the men, existed, have jumped to the conclusion that they and the all were identical, and they have filled the air with shouts of, "I am God," to the amusement of the multitude and the sorrow of sages. The claim of the corpuscle that I am man would be modest in comparison. But what indeed is the universe, if it be not the all, not yet created by the all, having separated itself into fragments? What else can it be? Of what else can it be made? This is the great question. Let us examine it carefully. We find here that the principle of correspondence, see Lesson 1, comes to our aid here. The old Hermetic axiom, as above, so below, may be pressed into service at this point. Let us endeavor to get a glimpse of the workings on higher planes by examining those on our own. The principle of correspondence must apply to this as well as to other problems. Let us see. On his own plane of being, how does man create? Well, first, He may create by making something out of outside materials, but this will not do, for there are no materials outside of the all with which it may create. Well then, secondly, man procreates or reproduces his kind by the process of begetting, which is self-multiplication accomplished by transferring a portion of his substance to his offspring. But this will not do, because the all cannot transfer or subtract a portion of itself, nor can it reproduce or multiply itself. In the first place, there would be a taking away, and in the second case, a multiplication or addition to the all, both thoughts being an absurdity. Is there no third way in which man creates? Yes, there is. He creates mentally, and in doing so he uses no outside materials, nor does he reproduce himself, and yet his spirit pervades the mental creation. Following the principle of correspondence, we are justified in considering that the all creates the universe mentally, in a matter akin to the process whereby man creates mental images. And here is where the report of reason tallies precisely with the report of the illumined, as shown by their teachings and writings. Such are the teachings of wise men. Such was the teaching of Hermes. The all can create in no other way except mentally, without either using material, and there is none to use, or else reproducing itself, which is also impossible. There is no escape from this conclusion of the reason, which, as we have said, agrees with the highest teachings of the illumined. Just as you, student, may create a universe of your own in your mentality, so does the all create universes in its own mentality. But your universe is the mental creation of a finite mind, whereas that of the all is the creation of an infinite. The two are similar in kind, but infinitely different in degree. We shall examine more closely in the process of creation and manifestation as we proceed, but this is the point to fix in your minds at this stage. The universe and all it contains is a mental creation of the all. Verily indeed, all is mind.
The all creates in its infinite mind countless universes, which exist for eons of time, and yet, to the all, the creation and development, decline, and death of a million universes is as the time of the twinkling of an eye, the Kybalion. The infinite mind of the all is the womb of universes,
the Kybalion. The principle of gender, see Lesson 1 and other lessons to follow, is manifested on all planes of life, material, mental, and spiritual. But, as we have said before, gender does not mean sex. Sex is merely a material manifestation of gender. Gender means relating to generation or creation. And whenever anything is generated or created on any plane, the principle of gender must be manifested. This is true even in the creation of universes. Now, do not jump to the conclusion that we are teaching that there is a male and female God or creator. That idea is merely a distortion of the ancient teachings on the subject. The true teaching is that the all, in itself, is above gender, as it is above every other law, including those of space and time. It is the law from which the laws proceed, and it is not subject to them. But when the all manifests on the plane of generation or creation, then it acts according to law and principle, for it is moving on a lower plane of being, and consequently it manifests the principle of gender in its masculine and feminine aspects, on the mental plane, of course. This idea may seem startling to some of you who hear it for the first time, but you have all really passively accepted it in your everyday conceptions.
You speak of the fatherhood of God and the motherhood of nature of God,
the Divine Father, and nature, the Universal Mother, and have thus instinctively acknowledged the principle of gender in the universe.
Is this not so?
But the Hermetic teaching does not imply a real duality. The all
Is one, and the two aspects are merely aspects of manifestation. The teaching is that the masculine principle manifested by the all stands, in a way, apart from the actual mental creation of the universe. It projects its will towards the feminine principle, which may be called nature, whereupon the latter begins the actual work of the evolution of the universe, from simple centers of activity on to man, and then on and on still higher, all according to well-established and firmly enforced laws of nature. If you prefer the old figures of thought, you may think of the masculine principle as God, the Father, and of the feminine principle as nature, the universal mother, from whose womb all things have been born. This is more than a mere poetic figure of speech. It is an idea of the actual process of the creation of the universe. But always remember that the all is but one, and that in its infinite mind the universe is generated, created, and exists. It may help you to get the proper idea if you will apply the law of correspondence to yourself and your own mind. You know that the part of you which you call I, in a sense, stands apart and witnesses the creation of mental images in your own mind. The part of your mind in which the mental generation is accomplished may be called the me, in distinction from the I, which stands apart and witnesses and examines the thoughts, ideas, and images of the me. As above, so below. Remember, and the phenomena of one plane may be employed to solve the riddles of higher or lower planes. Is it any wonder that you, the child, feel that instinctive reverence for the all, which feeling we call religion, that respect, the reverence for the father mind? Is it any wonder that when you consider the works and wonders of nature, you are overcome with a mighty feeling, which has its roots way away down in your innermost being? It is the mother mind that you are pressing close up to, like a babe to the breast. Do not mistake the supposing that the little world you see around you, the earth, which is a mere grain of dust in the universe, is the universe itself. There are millions upon millions of such worlds and greater, and there are millions of such universes in existence within the infinite mind of the all. And even in our own little solar system there are regions and planes of life far higher than ours, and beings compared to which we earthbound mortals are as the slimy life forms that dwell on the ocean's bed when compared to man. There are beings with powers and attributes higher than man has ever dreamed of the gods possessing. And yet these beings were once as you, and still lower, and you will be even as they, and still higher, in time, for such is the destiny of man as reported by the illumined. And death is not real, even in the relative sense, but it is but birth to a new life. And you shall go on and on and on to higher and still higher planes of life for eons upon eons of time. The universe is your home, and you shall explore its furthest recesses before the end of time. You are dwelling in the infinite mind of the all, and your possibilities and opportunities are infinite, both in space and time. And at the end of the grand cycle of eons, when the all shall draw back into itself all of its creations, you will go gladly, for you will then be able to know the whole truth of being at one with the all. Such is the report of the illumined, who have advanced well along the path. And in the meantime, rest calm and serene. You are safe and protected by the infinite power of the Father-Mother mind. Within the Father-Mother mind, mortal children are at home, the Kybalion. There is not one who is fatherless nor motherless in the universe. And so ends chapter 5. And we have talked about these concepts and principles before, but I will try to put a fresh spin on this somehow. God is, right? We talk about that all the time. God is. God is me. God is you. God is the space between me and you, and He is the space between me and you. You don't touch anything. We touched on this last time, right? You don't actually touch anything. If you put your hands together, they are not actually touching. What you are feeling is the atomic press of the atoms in this hand against the atoms in this hand. It doesn't allow them to mingle. You don't actually see anything. You only see the reflections of the light that is not absorbed by other things, which means that everything that you create, everything that you have ever sensed or felt, has been fully within your own mind. The only difference between being blind and being able to see is being able to interpret the reflections that are coming to you. You can change things because you are part of the mind. You are on your own individual timeline. You are in control of your own destiny, right? And your timeline in this particular instance is the one that you are getting this experience for. As you pass along your timeline, there are several bottlenecks that come along. There are things that happen. Most of them are set before you were 7 or 8 years old. Most of the things that you are going to have to learn in your life, you have already experienced by the time you were 7 or 8 years old. And so those bottlenecks will occur. But in between those bottlenecks, there is a wide variety of things that can happen. There are all kinds of choices that you can make. You can make the choice to eat McDonald's or Burger King. And based upon those decisions, a whole wide variety of things can happen, as innocuous as it may seem. If you choose McDonald's, you might get food poisoning. Not to put it on McDonald's, but just random chance. And if you would have had Burger King, you would have been fine, or vice versa. Those random points of chance are how you control your timeline. And until you get to one of the bottlenecks, you are in wide control of that. Your focus of your mind largely determines the direction that you are going, because you are part of the one. You are part of the all. You are not the all, but you're a piece of it. And so you get to, in large part, make your decisions, because the all needs the experience of you, of your particular life. But here's the kicker. They also get the experience of the choices that you didn't make, because in that timeline, the you that is not you here made the choice opposite. So instead of McDonald's, you ate Burger King. Or instead of Burger King, you ate McDonald's. Both of those exist at the same time. That is true for every single decision that has ever happened in your life. There are timelines where you are already gone. That's a hard concept to wrap your mind around, right? That is a hard thing to figure out. There are things that have led you where you are, but the things that led you there, you have made the opposite choices. And so in other timelines, the experience is different, but the one that is best for you is this one, the one that you're on. All the rest of those were for the experience of the all, but this one is for your betterment. This one is for you to learn lessons. This one is for you to ascend. All the rest of them are leading you down temptations and down darker paths, but this one is the one that you are in control with at all times. You get to choose the direction that your timeline is going to go, because you are part of the all. It is up to your mind. It is up to the mentalization that you bring to the situation in order to determine where that goal is going to be. If you set your goal, if you look at the target and you orient yourself with your compass and you find your star, then you go in that direction and it leads to your betterment. You can choose to lead this timeline darker. That is a free choice. That doesn't mean that it can't turn around, but you may have decided that you don't want to learn the lessons. You may have decided that you want the hard things. And so you continue to make the wrong choices. That is part of what's going on here. That is part of why you are here, because God is here to have experience through you. That is why you are here. Now, let us dig into chapter 6, which is the divine paradox. The half-wise, recognizing the comparative unreality of the universe, imagine that they may defy its laws. Such are vain and presumptuous fools, and they are broken against the rocks and torn asunder by the elements of reason of their folly. The truly wise, knowing the nature of the universe, use law against laws, the higher against the lower, and by the art of alchemy transmute that which is undesirable into that which is worthy, and thus triumph. mastery consists not in abnormal dreams, visions, and fantastic imaginings or living, but in using the higher forces against the lower, escaping the pains of the lower planes by vibrating on the higher. Transmutation, not presumptuous denial, is the weapon of the master. Find balance in all things. This is the paradox of the universe, resulting from the principle of
polarity which manifests when the all begins to create. Hearken to it, for it points the difference between half wisdom and wisdom. While
the infinite all, the universe, its laws, its powers, its life, and its phenomena, are as things witnessed in the state of meditation or dream. Yet, to all that is infinite, the universe must be treated as real, and life and action and thought must be based thereupon. Accordingly, although with an ever understanding of the higher truth, each according to his own plane and laws. Were the all to imagine that the universe were indeed reality, then woe to the universe, for there would be then no escape from the lower to higher, divineward. Then would the universe become a fixity, and progress would become impossible. And if man, owing to half wisdom, acts and lives and thinks of the universe as merely a dream, akin to his own finite dreams, then indeed does it so become for him, and, like a sleepwalker, he stumbles ever around and around in a circle, making no progress, and being forced into an awakening at last, by his falling, bruised and bleeding, over the natural laws which he ignored. Keep your mind ever on the star, but let your eyes watch over your footsteps, lest you fall into the mire by reason of your upward gaze. Remember the divine paradox, that while the universe is not, still it is. Remember ever the two poles of truth, the absolute and the relative. Beware of half-truths. What Hermeticists know as the law of paradox is an aspect of the principle of polarity. The Hermetic writings are filled with references to the appearance of the paradox and the consideration of the problems of life and being. The teachers are constantly warning their students against the error of omitting other side of any question, and their warnings are particularly directed to the problems of the absolute and the relative, which perplex all students of philosophy and which cause so many to think and act contrary to what is generally known as common sense. And we caution all students to be sure to grasp the divine paradox of the absolute and relative, lest they become entangled in the mire of the half-truth. With this in view, this particular lesson has been written. Read it carefully. The first thought that comes to the thinking man after he realizes the truth that the universe is a mental creation of the all is that the universe and all that it contains is a mere illusion, an unreality against which his idea, his instincts revolt. But this, like all the other great truths, must be considered from both the absolute and relative points of view. From the absolute viewpoint, of course, the universe is in the nature of an illusion, a dream, a phantasmagoria, as compared to the all in itself. We recognize this even in our ordinary view, for we speak of the world as a fleeting show that comes and goes, is born and dies, for the element of impermanence and change, finiteness and unsubstantiability. What must ever be connected with the idea of creating universe when it contrasted with the idea of the all, no matter what may be our beliefs concerning the nature of both. Philosopher, metaphysician, scientist, and theologian all agree upon this idea. And the thought is found in all forms of philosophical thought and religious conceptions, as well as in the theories of the respective schools of metaphysics and theology. So, the Hermetic teachings do not preach the unsubstantiality of the universe in any stronger terms than those more familiar to you. Although their presentation of the subject may seem somewhat more startling, anything that has a beginning and an ending must be, in a sense, unreal and untrue. And the universe comes under the rule in all schools of thought. From the absolute point of view, there is nothing real except the all, no matter what terms we may use in thinking of or discussing the subject. whether the universe be created of matter and or whether it be a mental creation in the mind of the all, it is unsubstantial, non-enduring, a thing of time, space, and change. We want you to realize this fact thoroughly before you pass judgment on the Hermetic conception of the mental nature of the universe. Think over any and all other of the conceptions and see whether this be not true of them. But the absolute point of view shows merely one side of the picture. The other side is the relative one. Absolute truth has been defined as things as the mind of God knows them, while relative truth is things as the highest reason of man understands them. And so, while to the all the universe must be unreal and illusionary, a mere dream or result of meditation, nevertheless, to the finite minds forming a part of the universe and viewing it through mortal faculties, the universe is very real indeed and must be so considered. In recognizing the absolute view, we must not make the mistake of ignoring or denying the facts and phenomena of the universe as they present themselves to our mortal faculties. We are not the all, remember. To take familiar illustrations, we all recognize the fact that matter exists to our senses. We will fare badly if we do not. And yet, even in our finite minds, understand the scientific dictum that there is no such thing as matter from a scientific point of view. That which we call matter is held to be merely an aggregation of atoms, which atoms themselves are merely a grouping of units of force called electrons or ions, vibrating and in constant circular motion. We kick a stone and we feel the impact. It seems to be real, notwithstanding that we know it to be merely what we have stated above. But remember that our foot, which feels the impact by means of our brains, is likewise matter, so constituted of electrons, and for that matter, so are our brains. And at best, if it were not by reason of our mind, we would not know the foot or stone at all. Then again, the ideal of the artist or sculptor, which he is endeavoring to reproduce in stone or on canvas, seems very real to him. So do the characters in the mind of the author or dramatist, which he seeks to express so that others may recognize them. And, if this be true in the case of our finite minds, what must be the degree of reality in the mental images created in the mind of the infinite? Oh, friends, to mortals this universe of mentality is very real indeed. It is the only one we can ever know, though we rise from plane to plane, higher and higher in it. We know it otherwise, but actual experience, we must be the all itself. It is true that the higher we rise in the scale, the nearer to the mind of the Father we reach, the more apparent becomes the illusory nature of finite things. But not until the all finally withdraws us into itself does the vision actually vanish. So, we need not dwell upon the feature of illusion. Rather, let us, recognizing the real nature of the universe, seek to understand its mental laws and endeavor to use them to the best effect in our upward progress through life as we travel from plane to plane of being. The laws of the universe are none the less iron laws because of the mental nature. All, except the all, are bound by them. What is, in the infinite mind of the all, is real, in a degree second only to that of reality itself, which is vested in the nature of the all. So do not feel insecure or afraid. We are all held firmly in the infinite mind of the all, and there is naught to hurt us or for us to fear. There is no power outside of the all to affect us. So we may rest calm and secure. There is a world of comfort and security in this realization when once attained. Then, calm and peaceful do we sleep rocked in the cradle of the deep, resting safely on the bosom of the ocean of infinite mind, which is the all. In the all, indeed, do we live and move and have our being. Matter is none the less matter to us, while we dwell on the plane of matter, although we know it to be merely an aggregation of electrons or particles of force vibrating rapidly and gyrating around each other in the formations of atoms. the atoms in turn vibrating and gyrating, forming molecules, which latter in turn form larger masses of matter. Nor does matter become less matter. When we follow the inquiry still further, and learn from the Hermetic teachings that the force of which the electrons are but units is merely a manifestation of the mind of the All, and like all else in the universe is purely mental in its nature, while on the plane of matter we must recognize its phenomena. We may control matter, as all masters of higher or lesser degree do, but we do so by applying the higher forces. We commit a folly when we attempt to deny the existence of matter in the relative aspect. We may deny its mastery over us, and rightly so, but we should not attempt to ignore it at its relative aspect, at least so long as we dwell upon its plane. Nor do the laws of nature become less constant or effective when we know them, likewise, to be merely mental creations. They are in full effect on the various planes. We overcome the lower laws by applying still higher ones, and in this way only. But we cannot escape law or rise above it entirely. Nothing but the All can escape law, and that because the All is law itself, from which all laws emerge. The most advanced masters may acquire the powers usually attributed to the gods of men, and there are countless ranks of being in the great hierarchy of life whose being and power transcends even that of the highest masters among men to a degree unthinkable by mortals. But even the highest master and the highest being who must bow to the law and be as nothing in the eyes of the all. So that even if these highest beings, whose powers exceeded even those attributed by men to their gods, if even these are bound by and are subservient to law, then imagine the presumption of mortal man, of our race and grade, when he dares to consider the laws of nature as unreal, visionary, and illusory, because he happens to be able to grasp the truth that the laws are mental in nature and simply mental creations of the All. Those laws which the All intends to be governing laws are not to be defied or argued away. So long as the universe endures, they will endure. For the universe exists by virtue of these laws, which form its framework and hold it together. The Hermetic principle of mentalism, while explaining the true nature of the universe upon the principle that all is mental, does not change the scientific conceptions of the universe, life, or evolution. In fact, science merely corroborates the Hermetic teachings. The latter merely teaches that the nature of the universe is mental, while modern science has taught that it is material, or of late that it is energy at the last analysis. The Hermetic teachings have no fault to find with Herbert Spencer's basic principle, which postulates the existence of an infinite and eternal energy, from which all things proceed. In fact, Hermetics recognize in Spencer's philosophy the highest outside statement of the workings of natural law that have ever been promulgated, and they believe Spencer to have been a reincarnation of an ancient philosopher who dwelt in Egypt thousands of years ago, who later incarnated as Heraclitus, the Grecian philosopher who lived BC 500, and they regard his statement of the infinite and eternal energy as directly in the line of the Hermetic teachings, always with the addition of their own doctrine that his energy is the energy of the mind of all. With the master key of the Hermetic philosophy, the student of Spencer will be unable to lock many doors of the inner philosophical connections of the great English philosopher, whose work shows the results of the preparation of his previous incarnations. His teachings regarding the evolution and rhythm are almost perfect agreement with Hermetic teachings regarding the principle of rhythm. So, the student of Hermetics need not lay aside any of his cherished scientific views regarding the universe. All he has to do is grasp the underlying principle of the All is mind. The universe is mental, held in the mind of the All. He will find that the other 6 of the 7 principles will fit into his scientific knowledge and will serve to bring out obscure points and throw light in dark corners. This is not to be wondered at when we realize the influence of the Hermetic thought on the early philosophers of Greece. upon whose foundation of thought the theories of modern science largely rest. The acceptance of the first Hermetic principle, mentalism, is the only great point of difference between modern science and Hermetic students, and science is gradually moving towards the Hermetic position in its groping in the dark for a way out of the labyrinth in which it has wandered in its search for reality. The purpose of this lesson is to impress upon the minds of our students the fact that, to all intents and purposes, the universe and its laws and its phenomena are just as real, so far as man is concerned, as they would be under the hypotheses of materialism or energism. Under any hypothesis that the universe in its outer aspect is changing, ever-flowing and transitory, and therefore devoid of substantiality and reality. But note the other pole of truth. Under the same hypotheses, we are compelled to act and live as if the fleeting things were real and substantial, with this difference, always, between the various hypotheses, that under the old views, mental power was ignored as a natural force, while under mentalism it becomes the greatest natural force. And this one difference revolutionizes life to those who understand the principle and its resulting laws and practice. So, finally, students all, grasp the advantage of mentalism and learn to know, use, and apply the laws resulting therefrom. But do not yield to the temptation which, as the Kybalion states, overcomes the half-wise and which causes them to be hypnotized by the apparent unreality of things. The consequence being that they wander about like dream people, dwelling in a world of dreams, ignoring the practical work and life of man. The end being that they are broken against the rocks and torn asunder by the elements, by reason of their own folly. Rather than follow the example of the wise, which the same authority states, use laws against laws, the higher against the lower, and by the art of alchemy transmute that which is undesirable into that which is worthy, and thus triumph. Following the authority, let us avoid the half-wisdom, which is folly, which ignores the truth that mastery consists not in abnormal dreams, visions, and fantastic imaginings or living, but in using the higher forces against the lower, escaping the pains of the lower planes by vibrating on the higher. Remember, always, student, that transmutation, not presumptuous denial, is the weapon of the master. The above quotations are from the Kybalion and are worthy of being committed to memory by the student. We do not live in a world of dreams, but in a universe which, while relative, is real so far as our lives and actions are concerned. Our business in the universe is not to deny its existence, but to live, using the laws to rise from lower to higher, living on, doing the best that we can under the circumstances arising each day, and living, so far it is possible, to our biggest ideas and ideals. The true meaning of life is not known to men on this plane, if indeed to any but the highest authorities. And our own institutions teach us that we will make no mistake in living up to the best that is in us, so far as possible, and realizing the universal tendency in the same direction in spite of apparent evidence to the contrary. We are all on the path, and the road leads upward ever, with frequent resting places. Read the message of the Kybalion and follow the example of the wise, avoiding the mistake of the half-wise, who perish by reason of their folly. And so we end chapter 6, the divine paradox. And the divine paradox is this, that you are a piece of the divine, but you are not the divine. That is the sum, right? You are as an atom in the fingernail of God. You are fully a part of God. You are part of his fingernail, but you are not God. You are his fingernail. He wants the best for you. Your goal should be to attain his will for you, because through that you will find fulfillment. The process of doing that, this mentalism that is being talked about here, is making the best out of the situation, right? To keep the positive spin on whatever it happens to be. Terrible things happen all the time, but there is a lesson to be learned in them. And in this, I get to talk a little bit about something personal to me. Some of you have been around for a while, and so you know, but some of you haven't, and so you don't. But I've had a pretty rough road, right? And we're just going to talk about one particular part of that rough road. A couple of years ago, I decided I was going to do YouTube. I was going to make a YouTube channel where I read the news, right? Other people were doing it. They were being rather successful in it, and I'm a little snarky and salty, so I figured I could do the same thing.
And then I lost my voice. I had a cyst grow in my throat, right? Part of what I am doing here is vocal therapy because now I am strengthening my throat, but that cyst in my throat could have went a couple of ways. I could have decided that because that cyst was in my throat that I was done, that I was just going to sit and wallow and never speak again. But then
I decided not to. I decided that I was going to take control of my own life. Part of that was my exercise, where I talk to y'all every morning. I was doing that for a couple of years before I started talking to y'all. That was part of me trying to grab hold of my life. And at that same point in time was when I quit smoking. That's when I lost my voice. That's when a cyst grew in my throat. And I went to the doctor and they could have took it out. But I chose to look at it as God giving me a lesson, right? Part of my philosophy is that we are here for the experience and the lessons. And what I got from that was that I needed to not do what I was doing. That I needed to investigate where I was going wrong on my path that was causing this problem in my throat. And so I did. I spent a lot of time in prayer and meditation. I spent a lot of time learning to find what I'm about to tell you. Life is about the balance, right? I had to learn to balance my overzealous tendencies, my tendency to be salty and snarky. I am really good at it. I could do that thing on the internet, but I'm not, because the choice that I am making is to serve the one, to help find the balance in life. And there's not a whole lot of balance in too much salt, right? There's not a whole lot of balance in picking fights with people who have no reason to, right? People aren't going to listen. The ears of understanding are only open to those who are willing to listen. And not everybody is willing to listen. So I had to learn to balance myself.
And as I have learned to balance myself, God has taken this thing from my throat. But it is because I chose to walk his path with it. I could have went to the doctor. They could have taken the thing from my throat. But I chose to put the faith in that God was going to do that when he was ready. And he did. Like the fact that I'm talking right here, I know it gets a little bit hard to hear me, but that's because my vocal cords are weak from having a couple of years where I could not speak in this tone at all. This is my natural speaking voice. It is returning to me stronger every day. I did 10 minutes today just talking in my normal tone of voice. That is amazing compared to where I was, where I couldn't even talk for 15 minutes. If you go back to my early reactions, I couldn't even talk for 15 minutes in a higher tone of voice without it just dying on me. I'm at the point now where I can talk for an hour or two because I have been faithfully seeking the direction of the one. I have been faithfully seeking to balance the laws in my life. Now, we talked before about the difference between the principles and the laws. They hint at the laws being different from the principles, and that is a real thing. The principles are great. They are contained within the laws, but the 8 laws of creation are where the actual change can really happen, because when you can balance the 8 laws and when you can balance the 7 sins and the 7 virtues in your life, that's when the real change can happen. That's when the things start going. There are more healings happening in my body than I even expected to be able to happen. I took it the wrong way for a couple of days, but now I'm starting to see the balance, right? Like, if you remember a couple of weeks ago, back in the middle of May even, I was talking about my shoulder and how I once had surgery on my shoulder, but I think the reason that I was having that pain was God actually fixed that surgery, and now things are starting to get back to normal. It's because of the balance in my life. It is because I am balancing these things. It is because I am choosing not to engage where I should not engage. That's why we don't cover the beef on this channel, right? That's why we focus on the positive on this channel. We are speaking into existence the will of the all to the best that I possibly can. Knowing the 8 laws of creation will help you. It is a guarantee. Practicing the balance of the 8 laws of creation will help you. It's a guarantee.
I can say that because it has helped me. It has helped other people that I know. And hopefully you will take it to heart and start doing it yourself. As we go through this Kybalion, there are parts in here that are thinking. They're just the thinking. There are parts in here that the execution of the actual practicality of the things. And you should have a full understanding of all of the 8 laws of creation. I think that's 3 times. So that you don't fall afoul of the things that are contained in this book. If you go in willy-nilly and start throwing around the forces of creation, you will ruin your life. It tells you that in this book. If you ignore the rules, you will get burnt by them. Ignorance is not an excuse. If you are attempting to make the changes and you are not following the laws, it will return to you. That is one of the laws. We're going to go ahead and start wrapping this one up. Hopefully I brought a little bit of enlightenment and not too much confusion to a series of somewhat complicated topics. If you have questions or if you agree with me or if you disagree with me, leave them in the comments down below. Give me a like, share, and a sub. Throw me a comment. Let me know you appreciate what I'm doing. We will be talking a lot more about a lot of different ancient lores, and not all of them are straightforward in what they say. Some of them are. There is a lesson to be learned in all of them. There is lessons to be learned in fiction if you pay attention and you look right. Some of these authors are out there giving you great universal truths, and people write them off as just works of fantasy, and it is wild. If you like what I'm doing, let me know down below. If you really like what I'm doing, hit me with that super thanks because it will be greatly appreciated. To the crew, thanks for hanging out. I appreciate every single minute that you were here with me, and I am praying for you every single day. Until next time, I love you. God loves you. You are perfect, whole, and complete just the way that you are. And this has been Pitt's Take. Peace.